If your car battery seems to die every 3 years like clockwork, you're not unlucky. You're experiencing what most drivers think is normal. But what if that assumption is completely wrong? What if I told you that the same battery you replace again and again could last 10, 12, even 15 years with the right care? This isn't a marketing gimmick or an internet myth. It's something professional mechanics, fleet managers, and automotive engineers quietly practice on their own vehicles. The uncomfortable truth is that most batteries aren't failing because they're defective. They're failing because they're neglected. And manufacturers have no incentive to change that because frequent battery replacements mean more service visits, more parts sold, and more profit. But once you understand how batteries actually die, you can stop the cycle completely. The first silent killer of car batteries is inactivity. Leaving a car parked for long stretches of time slowly destroys the battery, even if the vehicle isn't being driven. Modern cars are never truly off. The engine computer, alarm system, clock, and keyless entry modules all draw a small but constant amount of electricity known as parasitic drain. Over the course of a few weeks, this drain can lower the battery's voltage below 12.4 volts, which is the threshold where sulfation begins. Sulfation is the buildup of hardened lead sulfate crystals on the battery plates, and once it sets in, it permanently reduces the battery's ability to hold a charge. The simple fix is what mechanics call the weekly wake-up. Once a week, drive your car for at least 20 minutes, preferably at highway speeds. This gives the alternator enough time to fully recharge the battery and reverse early sulfation before it becomes permanent. If the car is a weekend or seasonal vehicle, a smart battery maintainer, not a cheap trickle charger, is essential. Smart maintainers actively monitor voltage, pulse the battery to break down crystals, and prevent overcharging. This one habit alone can double or even triple battery life. The second major factor most drivers overlook is charging voltage. A healthy electrical system should maintain between 13.8 and 14.4 volts while the engine is running. Anything outside that range accelerates battery failure. Low charging voltage usually means the alternator isn't doing its job efficiently, often due to worn belts, corroded grounds, or failing voltage regulators. High voltage is just as dangerous. Overcharging boils off electrolyte, overheats the internal plates, and causes irreversible damage. Many drivers never check voltage because they assume the charging system is fine as long as the car starts, but a simple digital voltmeter can reveal problems months or even years before a battery fails. Checking voltage with the engine off and running should be part of basic maintenance because even small deviations can quietly cut battery life in half. Corrosion is another hidden enemy that destroys batteries long before their time. That chalky white or bluish buildup around the terminals isn't just cosmetic, it's dried acid vapor reacting with metal, creating resistance in the electrical system. Even a thin layer of corrosion can cause enough voltage drop to prevent the battery from ever fully recharging. Over time, this partial charging leads directly to sulfation and capacity loss. Cleaning the terminals every 6 months is one of the most effective and neglected maintenance habits. Disconnecting the battery, neutralizing corrosion with a simple baking soda and water solution, and sealing the terminals afterward with dielectric grease prevents moisture intrusion and voltage starvation. This old-school practice remains one of the most reliable ways to extend battery life. Parasitic drains are another reason batteries die unexpectedly, especially in modern vehicles loaded with electronics. While a small amount of drain is normal, excessive drain often comes from aftermarket accessories installed incorrectly or components that never shut off completely. Dash cameras, GPS trackers, USB chargers, and even glove box lights can quietly draw power 24 hours a day. Over time, this constant discharge weakens the battery and accelerates sulfation. Identifying parasitic drain requires nothing more than a multimeter and patience, but fixing even one faulty circuit can add years to a battery's life. Temperature also plays a far bigger role in battery lifespan than most people realize. Heat is far more destructive than cold. For every 15 degrees above 77, battery life is effectively cut in half. That's why batteries in hot climates fail much faster than those in colder regions. Excess heat accelerates chemical breakdown inside the battery and increases water loss through evaporation. Parking in the shade, keeping battery vents clear, and reducing prolonged idling in hot conditions can dramatically slow this damage. In colder climates, insulating the battery helps stabilize temperatures and reduces the extreme voltage drop that occurs during winter starts. Short trips may seem harmless, but they're brutal on batteries. Starting the engine draws a massive amount of current, and if the car is shut off before the alternator can replenish that energy, the battery slowly depletes even though it still appears to function normally. Repeated short trips cause what's known as microcycling, a condition that wears out batteries prematurely. Combining errands or allowing the engine to run long enough to fully recharge after each cold start is essential for long-term battery health. Finally, testing the battery regularly is what separates batteries that die suddenly from those that give years of reliable service. Modern batteries provide warning signs long before they fail, but most drivers don't recognize them until it's too late. Testing voltage and cold cranking amps every 6 months allows you to catch problems early, correct them, and avoid sudden breakdowns. Batteries don't fail overnight, they fade slowly. And when you monitor them properly, that fade can be slowed dramatically. Most drivers believe battery failure is inevitable. In reality, it's preventable. But what happens when sulfation is already begun? What do professionals do when a battery is considered too far gone? That's where the real secrets begin, and it's something almost no manufacturer ever talks about.
Once sulfation begins, most drivers assume the battery is finished. They replace it without question and move on, never realizing that what killed it was not age, but chemistry. In reality, sulfation is a reversible process in its early and even moderate stages, and professional mechanics know this well. Every time a battery's voltage drops below 12.4 volts, sulfate crystals begin forming on the lead plates. Left unchecked, these crystals harden, blocking chemical reactions and cutting usable capacity in half. But when treated correctly, those crystals can be broken apart and reabsorbed back into the electrolyte. This is where desulfation charging comes in, a technique used quietly in fleet maintenance, law enforcement garages, and heavy equipment yards, where batteries are expected to last a decade or more. Unlike standard chargers that simply push current, desulfation chargers use controlled high-frequency pulses to dissolve crystal buildup and restore internal balance. When used once or twice a year, they can revive weakened batteries and dramatically slow future degradation. Long-term storage is another moment where batteries quietly die long before their time. A car that sits unused for weeks or months continues to drain its battery through onboard electronics, and once voltage drops too low, permanent damage follows quickly. A deeply discharged battery can suffer irreversible sulfation in just a few weeks. Professionals never allow stored vehicles to sit connected without protection. Either the negative terminal is disconnected or a smart battery maintainer is installed to cycle charging and resting phases automatically. This keeps the battery in an optimal state of charge without overworking it. Even brand new batteries will fail early if left unattended during storage, which is why this step is considered essential, not optional. For vehicles that still use traditional flooded lead-acid batteries, electrolyte maintenance is a forgotten art that can add years of life. As batteries charge and discharge, small amounts of water evaporate, especially in hot climates. When fluid levels drop too low, the lead plates become exposed to air, triggering oxidation and internal corrosion that permanently weakens the battery. Checking electrolyte levels every few months and topping up with distilled water, never tap water, keeps the plates submerged and the chemical reactions stable. This simple 5-minute habit can prevent irreversible damage that would otherwise require a full replacement. One mistake that causes instant damage on modern vehicles is disconnecting the battery while the engine is running. This outdated test once worked on older cars, but in today's vehicles, it can create massive voltage spikes that destroy sensitive electronics, alternator diodes, and engine control units in seconds. Professionals test alternators with multimeters, not guesswork. Maintaining stable voltage during diagnosis protects both the battery and the vehicle's entire electrical system. Vibration is another silent battery killer that most drivers never consider. Every bump, pothole, and rough road sends shock through the battery's internal plates. Over time, constant vibration weakens internal welds, causes microfractures, and leads to premature failure. That's why fleet mechanics always ensure batteries are firmly clamped and in harsh driving conditions, cushioned with vibration-absorbing pads. Reducing vibration alone can extend battery life by years, especially in vehicles driven on rough or uneven surfaces. Modern vehicles also rely heavily on computer-controlled charging systems, and after battery replacement or deep charging, those systems may retain incorrect voltage data. This can lead to chronic undercharging or erratic behavior in start-stop systems and fuel management. Professional technicians often perform a voltage memory reset to allow the vehicle's control modules to relearn the battery's true charge characteristics. This simple reset process ensures proper alternator regulation and prevents subtle electrical issues that slowly degrade the battery over time. Cold weather presents its own challenges, and professionals use small techniques to reduce battery stress during winter starts. Allowing the vehicle's electronics to power on briefly before cranking slightly warms internal circuits and reduces the initial load on the battery. This minimizes voltage sag and improves cold start reliability, especially in freezing conditions where chemical reactions inside the battery slow dramatically. When all the